Hi guys, so Bob Vylan's comments at Glastonbury continue to cause a mini meltdown in the media. So we've heard calls for him to be thrown in jail, we've heard calls for the BBC to be fined or punished in some way, and of course Lucy Connolly, the Nelson Mandela of the far right, has been invoked at least a dozen times. Now, Nick Ferrari here on LBC is complaining about the BBC and Bob Vylan himself, so let's have a listen.
BBC have acted appallingly again. It was only 2 months ago that Tim Davies said he was going to crack down on anti-Semitism within the BBC. It's got worse.
Okay, but what Bob Vylan said was not anti-Semitic. See, he said, and I don't agree with his comments, but he said death to the IDF. But the IDF, while it's the defense force of Israel, is 90% Jewish, but it's about 10% Christian, Muslim, and atheist and other religions. It's an organization. It's not people. Yes, there are people in it, obviously, but it's an organization. And I've made comparisons to, for example, the National Party in South Africa. If somebody were to say death to the National Party of South Africa when it was running the apartheid regime, would that be, I don't know, racist? What about if you said death to the Revolutionary Guard of Iran? Would that be Islamophobic? Like, the people who are complaining about this don't seem to have their ducks in a row. They don't seem to understand that, well, let's replace the IDF with another organization, and can we use the same label or an equivalent label? No, you can't.
What is the problem they've got over there? And as I said earlier, the BBC just cannot get out of this one. How anybody, and I've worked in and around television and radio for a couple of years now, so the minute you're you're into this 20-minute tirade, I won't read it all to you, foul language about music executives, bald-headed F-words, C-words, everything else, and saying, we're live on the BBC, everyone chanting and screaming how hilarious it is. Where was someone to press the kill button?
Okay, so Nick Ferrari isn't the only one to complain about this. Why didn't somebody press the kill button? The kill button, of course, is where you stop the recording for a few seconds and then restart it in order to avoid or cut out maybe swearing or inflammatory language. But the problem with this is that it was a live stream, as far as I know. And I don't know if it's possible to do that. Even if it were possible, thousands of people were recording it with their phones. So if the BBC had cut out what Bob Vylan had said, what do you think would have happened? People would have been complaining. Why did you cut this out? Isn't the BBC supposed to be unbiased? Because as soon as if they had cut it out, I don't know the motivations for not cutting it out, but I can imagine if it was cut out, people would be complaining and they would be saying, why is the BBC cutting this out? And then, of course, we would find the footage anyway because people had it on their phones or on other media outlets. I don't know if the BBC had an exclusive there, but it wouldn't matter because people would have recorded it on their phones and they would have put it up on social media, and then people would be asking, why was this cut out? Now, Nick Ferrari, of course, wouldn't be asking this question because he wouldn't care. So, while I understand the BBC probably made a bad choice here and let it run, we would have seen the footage anyway.
Pull the plug. There's no conversation to be had here. It's done. It's out. Ridiculous. Recently, a list was released of people trying to stop our mate's kneecap from performing here today. And who do I see on that effing list? But that bald-headed C I used to effing, and on it goes. For 20 minutes. No one pulls the plug. Why? Quite incredible. Avon and Somerset Police have put out a statement. We are reviewing the evidence. What takes so long? Why are you so utterly inept or incompetent that you can't say, yes, an investigation? I'm not expecting you to nick him because you've got to get it all right. Yes, an investigation will proceed, or no, there's nothing to see here. We are reviewing the evidence. Well, you've been reviewing it for days. When might there be some action?
What action? What do you want them to do, Nick Ferrari? Do you want them to arrest him? Just come out and say it. You don't like what he did. You don't know if what he did was illegal or not. You don't want the police to do their investigation. You want him nicked, okay? You want him arrested and thrown in jail. Why? Because he said things that you don't like. It's so ironic. I don't know if it was Nick Ferrari, but there have been other commentators who've been coming out saying, what about Lucy Connolly? Poor Lucy Connolly, thrown in jail for a tweet. Lucy Connolly pleaded guilty. She had her day in court. She could have pleaded innocent or not guilty, but she didn't. She had due process. Don't you want the same applied to Bob Vylan? Don't you think he should have due process as well? If he has broken the law, then he should be punished. If he hasn't, then he shouldn't. Let's leave it to the police. Not trial by public, trial by media or whatever. This is what Nick Ferrari obviously wants. It's pretty pathetic, isn't it? We don't know if he broke the law. The police are reviewing the evidence. They're looking at all sorts of evidence. Maybe stuff that he has posted in the past to see if there's some trend here. I never actually heard of this guy until recently, which is also quite funny because this has helped Bob Vylan a great deal. Not so much what he said, but the reaction to it. It has created the Barbara Streisand effect. And if you're not familiar, do Google that. It's hilarious. You're trying to punish this guy, and by doing so, you're making him even more popular. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.